everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Tractor Noise podcast. We hope you all had a fantastic weekend. On today's show, we're going to be looking back at Town's 3-0 victory over Blackburn Rovers at Portman Road. So help me look back on the game, I'm delighted to say I'm once again joined by Mr. Robbins and Richard Popple. Guys, first time in a long time we've had a trifecta of people on the Tractor Noise podcast. It's good to see you both. I guess we'll do Christmas, New Year's catch-up chats as well. It's been a wee while, hasn't it, Richard? How are you doing?
It has been a wee while, yeah. Hello, Tom. Hello, Rob. It's nice to be back. I think it's about a month ago since I was on a pod. So yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday game, and Rob, I think it was you held the fort solo for the big commentary win at the end of the year there. Thanks for that. But I think group effort. It's been a wee while for yourself as well, so good to see you.
Yeah, so I think we were just working it out, weren't we? It was actually the last the last Blackburn game, not the one that got abandoned, the replay one. That's the last time I recorded with somebody else. I think 2 of my last 3 have been solo ones. That have sparsely I'm available on a weekend for a recording. Somehow we've managed to get lucky that the weeks I have been that at least we can still get pod out. But it's nice to record with actually have somebody to talk to rather than just talking to a camera for half an hour.
Absolutely. We appreciate everyone who sticks around for the solo ones, but it's very much better, I think, we have all of us here together looking back in the game. As you said, though, Rob, it was the last time you guys did a podcast together. I was harking back to maybe a bit of a State of the Union address when you guys did the Blackburn review, and I was actually at Ewood Park early December. Really, since then, it's been a big old turnaround, hasn't it? Rich, I feel like a night and day in terms of mood on the back end of this game in comparison to the away one we had recently at Blackburn. It's been a big shift, really, hasn't it? I think the one loss at Leicester, but apart from that, things seem to be moving in the right direction finally. And I think this team are finally just finding their feet and it's looking a lot better.
Yeah, there seems to be like I guess at the start of the season we were expecting us to win games, but the longer that went on, the indifferent form and the indifferent start went on, the more difficult that became to sort of see it. But now you sort of expect them to win games. Blackburn at home, you would think would be a banker, and it looked pretty easy, really. The result never really seemed in doubt, and there seems to be a bit more fluidity and a bit more consistency in the selection and all that kind of stuff. We're keeping more clean sheets. We're more solid at the back, and yeah, we're putting together a pretty decent run of form at a good time of the season, really.
And that came in the form of McKenna getting manager up for December as well. Rob, anything you can attribute to Town's recent run of form, or is it just, this team finally sort of fulfilling the potential we kind of expected from the start of the season? As Rich said, it's been a slow start, but we're finally seeing it.
I think it's just people gelling, really, because it was another summer of big change after a January with quite a few changes and a huge change the summer before that. There's a lot of these players that haven't played too many minutes together, even the ones who have been here for a year as well. I think we're finally there's been less changes to the 11 week to week, which is something we've moaned about a lot over the last couple of years, and players are building these relationships on the pitch now. And then you say we pretty much know what team bearing in mind fixture schedule and everything, we're rotate here and there, but you can pretty much name what McKenna's best starting 11 is now, which we haven't been able to say for a while. And so those 11 names are what we expected to see on the team sheet on Saturday, and that's what it was. But I think it's just we've realised that now, and these players are starting to gel together, and we've looked playing with a bit more confidence as a result of that. I think because it's hard when you're making 5 or 6 changes every game, like we were doing for the last 18 months or something. We never played the same back line together for more than about 2 games. Now we actually have, and they look quite solid.
Absolutely. Just we've. As you say, Richard, coming to this game wasn't maybe the be-all, end-all in terms of opposition. Blackburn are struggling a fair bit this season. But just, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the match as we roll on and sort of look at individuals and stuff. But just thoughts on the overall result and performance? It's maybe not the one we're going to look back on come May and think, that was the reason why, we're here where we are now, hopefully. But still a good result nonetheless, and 3 points on the board. Nothing to turn your nose at, is it? Especially as we're getting now we're in 2026 and all that.
It just feels a bit sort of flat to me at the moment. And I know that sounds weird because we're winning a lot of games, but it doesn't feel that exciting. And maybe we're spoiled, Town fans at the moment, because obviously apart from last season, we've had so much success recently, really, compared to any time in the club's history, really. If we do go up this year, 3 promotions out of 4 years is something that the club has just never ever done before. So we're kind of in an unprecedented time in a weird way. And even though this season has felt like a real slow burner, it still kind of feels like we're in that a little bit, even though we are winning games now and we're on a good run of form. It doesn't feel like we're playing, swashbuckling football or kind of, knocking teams aside and it's really attacking and really exciting. It feels kind of professional and workmanlike and what you would expect from a team that's probably got better individual players than most of the rest of the league. And as we know, it's not a particularly vintage championship anyway. Coventry have very much come back to the pack, even though they got a decent win at the weekend. Middlesbrough have done all right as well. They're a bit like us, I think. Similar kind of, performances across the season and stuff. But yeah, it's funny. We're third and we're on the cusp of potentially going back to the Premier League. But am I the only one I don't know. It just feels a bit humdrum. It doesn't feel exciting. It feels kind of like, oh yeah, we've got another home win sort of thing. Is that fair, or am I being a bit glass half full?
I could maybe say it's, as you said, potentially three promotions in 4 seasons. Expectations going to be there, isn't it? Yeah, and maybe it's just in comparison to previous years and like the romanticism behind it. Maybe there are slight less expectation, especially in the championship season a few seasons ago in comparison to this year. Maybe like performances aren't maybe what you're sort of looking at so much, but more just the results on paper. I think we did put some great performances when we went up, obviously. But yeah, Rob, what do you share Richard's thoughts on that, or is it just I think the league's quality this year has dipped a lot more than when we were in the championship last couple of seasons ago. I think that's a very good point, to be honest. But yeah, just are you sharing Richard's sentiments there?
I think it's just the expectation, to be honest. Like obviously nobody saw it coming the last time in the championship. We were it was riding a wave from August all the way through to May and ended up getting promoted. Like it was almost like waiting for it to all fall apart and like come back down to reality, really. But I think the League One promotion season wasn't particularly entertaining, or not entertaining, the wrong word, but like again, because the expectation was got to be this year too good, like can't be stuck in this league any longer. It was almost like relief at every result rather than celebrating them, and kind of like that, we sort of come back with that mindset of like the expectation is to go straight back up because the squad's better than probably the best in the league on paper, and it's say the first time since League One really that we've had that sort of expectation for a good season. Everything else has sort of been the last championship year. Let's say it was the goal was ultimately to stay up, and then past that finish as high as you can, and we just sort of rode that wave of momentum all the way through to the end of the season. And same in the Premier League, it was like every result was celebrated because it was the achievement was being there. Whereas now the expectation is if we're not in and around it by the end of the year, then it'll be seen as sort of a failure of the season, almost that we're too good to not go up in a way. But and so it almost becomes that overwhelming feeling of relief with every result rather than celebrating. It's like a game like this. It's like it's nice when you score a few goals and that. So maybe it's a bit run on the mill and a bit boring, but it's almost what you need games to be. You don't want to have them dramatic and needing last minute goals every time. As long as you're getting the points on the board, and so we're in a good enough position now. Say game in hand as well, which they always rather have the points on the board, but it's sort of nice to have that little safety net of knowing there's that chance to make some ground back as well with whenever that Portsmouth game gets rearranged for. But yeah, I think it's just the expectation really that we haven't had this since the League One promotion season. The last time there was an expectation like this to go on and have a strong season, and as I say, we probably dramatise that a bit more in our heads when you think back on it now. But actually, at the time, that wasn't particularly thrilling week by week. That was almost like again because the expectation was to win every week.
I agree with you, but I think the end of that season was quite thrilling because one, it was the first time we'd had any success in 20 years. So. And they went on that kind of like 12, 15 game run or whatever it was, where we won 14 out of 15 or something like that. We became the juggernaut that we were supposed to be. Whereas I think this year, and I don't want this to come across like, I'm disappointed or whatever. We're third and we're on a good run. We're where we probably should be. But because of the expectation, I think you're absolutely right, Rob. But I think there's also that thing of we haven't quite fell in love with, which is a ridiculous term anyway, this group of players yet either. And there isn't still that connection, I don't think, between the team and the fans, really. I think there's I think the expectation, as you say, kind of takes the joy out of football, doesn't it? When you nearly reach the mountaintop, or you reach the mountaintop, what else is there to do? You've got to stay there. And I think they were so overwhelming favourites, really, for the league. And then we saw the quality of the league over the first half of the season, and it became even more like, well, Town should get there, really. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I don't know. It's just a funny feeling, really. It's kind of like you look at the results and watch the games and things like that, and it's good, and it's, you know, your team is winning, but there's just not quite, for me anyway, personally. Other fans obviously may feel very different. There doesn't. I don't have that excitement at the moment, and maybe that will come towards the end of the season. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the sort of thrill of the chase is it doesn't feel like it's there yet, because I think maybe we're expecting to be where we are, and you know, given the performance of this season, you can think we should maybe, like, the performances should have been better a lot of times. We probably should have been higher if we played to potential, or played how we have done in recent weeks. But I think that romanticism, that connection between the squad and the fans, do you know, I mean, yeah, I feel like performances are obviously helping to build that connection. Matasiwa and Nunes, I think, you know, they've definitely, out of a lot of players who signed this summer, I think they've really, really established a connection with the fans and stuff. And even if the lukewarm fist pumps after the game aren't exactly what they used to be, they're still, I think, doing their best. But I agree with you. I think achieving something and all that sort of stuff definitely helps as well. But we're getting to the game now, guys. And Rob, as you said, starting 11 kind of picks itself now. I feel like if you were to name Town's best 11 just off the top of your head, this would be it, wouldn't it? Walton in goal, Furlong, O'Shea, Kipre, Davis back four, pivot of Matasiwa and Taylor, Eggley on the right, returning to 11 after Burns had a welcome start in the FA Cup against Blackpool week prior. Nunes in the 10, Philogene on the left, and then George Hurst up front. George Hurst surprisingly making his coming to starting 11, considering he was out for a few weeks and was only, I think, announced to return the day before. We know McKenna likes to keep his cards close to his chest in terms of injuries and stuff, so Hurst might have been ready to go a bit before that. But Richard, you know, Rob's saying this 11 picks itself. Like, are you in agreement with that? Like, this is our best 11 now. Maybe a Q-Taylor switch. We kind of talk about that quite a lot. But I think this is, yeah, as Rob said, the guys now, isn't it, by the looks of things?
Yeah, I mean, it has been for a few weeks, hasn't it? So I think since he's found a bit more of a consistency in his selection, obviously the results have spoken for themselves, and I'm sure those, you know, two things go sort of hand in hand as well for him in terms of the performances have been good enough so that he can justify keeping the same team. But yeah, it's definitely the back four is where things have solidified. Like that fundamentally is why I think we're putting together the run that we are. Really, we're keeping more clean sheets than we were at the start of the season. It's as simple as that. I think we still have slightly the second best defence in the league, right? Just behind Stoke, maybe by a goal, I think.
Yeah.
But we've conceded 24.
Yeah, and they've got 23.
23.
But it's now less than a goal a game. So, you know, that's good going for anyone, really. If they keep it around that kind of level for the rest of the season, I'm sure we will get to where we want to get to. But yeah, I think Rob's right. And that consistency for sure has been reflected in the performances and thankfully the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before kick-off, a couple of moments from the club as we continue to sort of build a strong connection with the fans as well. The new Bobby Robson mural with the UEFA Cup was put up as well, sort of snippets of it being seen over the week on social media, but it's finally sort of unveiled on socials and all that sort of stuff on the weekend. Do you guys like that? It's obviously improvements for the stadium on the exterior. It's always nice to see and shows a big history we have as a club and one of our greatest ever managers.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, isn't it? It's the sort of thing like you said about relationship building and that, because it does happen as much off the pitch as it does on it in terms of, so that was what happened with obviously the back-to-back promotions were a key factor, but that old squad really got involved with, say, people like Connor Chaplin got so heavily involved with things like the foundation and local community and everything, and that's why we warmed to them as a fan base. That just factually doesn't happen as much the higher up you go. The year in the Premier League, the players get turned over more often, so they get a chance to build those relationships. You know, there's not as much involved as there is. It's almost more global than community the higher up you go. So it's always going to be harder. But say obviously what you do off the pitch contributes to that as well, both from the club and from the players. So say doing things like this, so you can have no complaints about it, can you? It's a great touch, and say any improvements to the stadium, they're going to be welcomed at this point, because it's going to be a while till any actual building work gets done there, and isn't it? Because we've got to get Playford Road done first.
Absolutely. And then before kick-off as well, as many clubs are doing this time of year as well, sort of a tribute to former players, staff and supporters who passed away last year, which is loved seeing, getting their tribute for being lifetime Blues fans and contributors to the club. So it's really good to see from Town faithful before the game started. But getting into it, early goal, 3 minutes in. Town took the lead from the first attack, really. It was an own goal from Cashin, new Rovers sign, not the debut. I'm sure he wanted to have him kind of a poor performance from many other moments in the game as well. But obviously it wasn't a Town player who got the ball in the back of the net, but good build-up from that guy, Nunes, as well, Rich, who kind of held it in the middle, kept his run and got in the end of it to put the ball in, and ball in the back of the net. Town 1-0 up very early on. Game plan out the window for Rovers by the looks of things, because he's got that early goal.
Yeah, he played well, Nunes. I thought he was kind of here, there and everywhere. I think he's very much justifying his position in the team every single week, really. It was good to get an early goal. That has evaded us a few times, particularly at home, which has created a bit of a tense atmosphere, I suppose, particularly earlier in the season. But it's good to get an early start. I mean, it's really bad defending. It's pretty. There's no Town player anywhere near him. I don't think anywhere in the box, really. There's like three Blackburn defenders kind of there, and he just doesn't really look. He doesn't really check, and makes a bit of a hash of the. I suppose attempted clearance. I don't know whether he's trying to put it into the stand or whether he's trying to put it over the bar, but he gets it all wrong, and it's a bit of a mess. But good for us. Nice little present to start the game with. Yeah,
definitely. I think, as you said, finding the back of the net early on, which is always our aim any minute of the game, but it's the pressure we have at home and games you want to have that, and teams come to the point where over low block, I'm sure, as Blackburn's game plan as well. I haven't been familiar with us with almost 180 minutes of football against us already this season, but I think to get that early goal, it kind of throws a span in the works of their game plan, and we can kind of play our game even more, which I think you kind of saw for the rest of the 90, to be honest. But 7 minutes in, we saw a really nice ball from Furlong to Nunes involved again, put across in, and it was an attempt to Megali after it was cleared out from the Blackburn player, and a good save from Toff in goal for Blackburn. Good chance for Egley, but one of the things I saw on socials this week, guys, I don't know if you did see before the game, Egley on the club socials named as Mount Rushmore, like his favourite ever players, like top 4 players, the 4 presidents on the mountain in America. Did you see that post? And if not, can you guess Egley's 4 like all-time favourite footballers? Obviously, considering his age, it would be ones from playing in the past 20 years to give a bit of a clue.
Erling Haaland.
Did you? He's not on it.
Oh.
There is someone from Norway on it. I can give you a clue on. One of them played for Liverpool, one played for Arsenal and United, one played for Chelsea and many top European clubs. Another one played for Chelsea and Liverpool as well. But
John Arne Riise.
Of course, yeah, legend. He was named there. I think probably Norway's, at least until Haaland came along, probably one of Norway's most prolific players in recent years. But a really thunderbolt rocket of the left foot. Dutch striker, played for United and Arsenal.
Van Persie.
No, Van Persie.
There's a lot of left-footed players in this. I think all of them are left-footed, actually, which isn't surprising considering that he is a left-footed player as well. So, Egley likes to run on the wing and then sort of cut in and shoot on his left. Can you think of anyone who did that quite well?
Who for? Anyone.
Bayern, Chelsea, Real Madrid.
Oh, Arjen Robben.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly, yeah, which makes sense really when you see the way he tries to play.
I know the other one is because I got as far as seeing it. I saw it was the first one and I turned it off.
Yeah. So the first, Rob, do you want to tell Richard and our listeners and watchers who the first one was? It was a bit of a surprise.
I thought, I'll see what he says, and then he whips the first one out. He says Daniel Sturridge, and then I didn't bother watching the rest.
Daniel Sturridge is on his Mount Rushmore.
His first pick as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said he liked the way he played. I mean, that season when Liverpool challenged for the league and Gerrard slipped, he had a fantastic season. I think it's probably his best season of his career. But still, considering the sort of the impacts the other 3 players had, it was quite surprising. But
it's quite a good question. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Ipswich Town players, guys?
Oh, Blumenech. If you got it to hand, go ahead. I might have to think.
I'm scared.
I mean, Jim McGilton's on mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim McGilton.
Martin Royster. He's my favourite Town player.
There you go. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'll put Chappers on there as well. I think
I'm putting Luke Wolfenden.
Yeah, Chappers.
Maybe we should have to think about this and then come back to it.
Yeah. If you come back to the end of the episode, if you want to comment as well of who your Rushmores are as well, please do, because there's plenty to choose from. But getting back into the game there, 11 minutes, 2-0 up, scrambled in from a corner. Jack Taylor's first goal of the season, Rob. Wasn't the most glamorous goal, but I feel 11 minutes in, without calamity from, as Richard said, a very much informed defence. It was kind of game nailed shut there, really, wasn't it? And Jack Taylor, his first goal of the season, albeit, again, as I said, not the most glamorous of ones. Good for him to get on the score sheet finally. Looks very relieved, didn't he, with his goal in his celebration?
Yeah, I didn't realise that was his first goal till after the game. I don't know. I always just assumed he had a couple already. I don't know why, but yeah, it's just what you got to do, and it's those ugly goals, but it's keeping the fight alive. Second balls, third balls, whatever you need to do from the set piece, and until you eventually get it in the back of the net. That's just exactly what you need to do, and those sort of that's why he's positioned where he is for the set piece, because that's his job. If it drops in the box, to hang around and be there. So it's scruffy, but it was important. Like you said it earlier, that it's up the game plan. Teams come to Portman Road to sit behind the ball and frustrate Ipswich and drag the game out for as long as possible. So you've already got one goal. That's let's say by two, you've struggled to find a team that you could confidently say would put 3 past Ipswich at home, especially not Blackburn. So you kind of know at that point that you're free to sort of play your football the rest of the day because all the pressure's on them. They'd have turned up to, like most teams do, I think, hold on to 0-0 for as long as possible, or maybe nick one on the break and then really go for it at the end of the game if you're still in it. And suddenly you're 2 down, and early on, from their point of view, really poor goals to concede defensively, and that's it. And they sort of know at that point they've shot themselves in the foot early on, and they're a bit demoralised, and we have the freedom of the rest of the game.
Absolutely. So yeah, as I said, 2-0 up. Before we get to the first break, guys, and with this first half coming to an end there, we did see, time recording on a Sunday evening, we haven't got official word on the full extent of the injury, but Jalen Villager did go off on the 40th minute after picking up a knock with Jack Clark coming on to replace him there. Richard, obviously, Villager's been one of our standouts this season. I think Clark's a very capable substitute as well, but just, we don't know the length of his injury yet, but just devil's advocate say it's like a month or so. Where has he had out with a potential Philogene sideline? I think Clark's seen, as I said, decent pair of hands in his stead. Fantastic performance at Coventry, but are you worried with a Philogene injury, or strength in depth should see us through for that month or so? If it is,
have they talked about how long it might be?
No, I think, well, as I said, I'm not sure, but McKenna did say he picked up a knock during a match on his knee.
Yeah, on his knee, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look,
nothing concrete yet.
If it's a kind of like impact thing and it's, a bit of bruising or whatever, then hopefully maybe it's only a week or something. But obviously we've got a game Tuesday, Saturday, so he'd potentially miss a couple. Maybe it's nothing, and maybe he'll be available Tuesday. But I suppose if he's out, I think, as you just said, Clark's been good as a substitute. I don't think he's necessarily pulled up many trees really from the start this season. He's been okay, but his best performances absolutely have been from the bench. So I think we'd be needing more from him if he's going to have to deputise in the team. And I think Philogene has been our most potent attacking player this year, even though obviously he's a little bit Jekyll and Hyde at home and away from home. But he has come up with a lot of moments of sort of real quality, and is the player that in the team that I think can do that on the most consistent basis. So he will definitely be a miss, but you would hope that Clark would hopefully take the opportunity if he did have a couple of starts over the next week or so. Yeah.
As I said, that I was really impressed with just about Jack Clark as a starter. I agree, he's been back off the bench for the season. He started at against Coventry near the end of the year. Probably his best performance for the season.
Yeah, it's
really,
true.
really good.
That is true.
Do it there. He's been more of a road player this season. Philogene's kind of been the home player out of the two this season on that left side. So yeah, we've got a lot of games on the road. So maybe it's good timing if he's out for a wee bit of time. But yeah, it's not what you want to see, regardless of if he's out for a week or a month. Who knows? But because he's been such a key member of the squad, so hopefully he can back in the team very soon. We'll take our first break now. When we come back, we'll continue to look back on Town's 3-0 win, and also just dissecting individual moments and key players from the game, and look at some other news, transfer window, and all that sort of stuff, and slight look ahead to Bristol City this Tuesday. So we'll see you guys in a sec. Welcome back to part 2 of Track to Noise. Myself, Richard and Rob looking back at Town's 3-0 victory over Blackburn Rovers this past weekend. Town continued on the offensive in the second half there, Rob. 49th minute was a really inventive effort from Nunes, kind of bobbled a bit in the 6-yard box and almost slightly acrobatic, wouldn't call it like a Rooney bicycle kick-esque from 15 or so years ago, but he gave his best effort. Just not the most like big moment in the match in terms of a goal coming from it, but just Nunes again, as you said in the first half, he was keen in the build-up of many moments, and immediately in the second half, same again. You know, we talked about a lot of players coming through this season, taking their time to gel. He seems to be improving game by game, doesn't he? And just a real key member of the squad.
Yeah, one of the first names on the team sheet, isn't he? But since we haven't looked back, have we? Since that West Brom game when Akpom went off injured and Smolix was already out, and we needed somebody to go in the 10. We haven't looked back since that half an hour at West Brom, have we? He's played every single game there. He's never played deeper at any point in the game, even for like after substitutes and that have been made. It's something a lot of fans were calling for from early on when we kept seeing him pushed in next to Matt Seaver when he played. But like I say, he's just absolutely taken it and run with it since he got that half an hour to prove himself in the 10 at West Brom, where he became the best player on the pitch as soon as he moved more attacking. And then, from there, you know what he's like every week. Like I said it when I've done the commentary pod that I found myself sitting there after 65 minutes thinking, oh, he's been quite quiet today. They've neutralised him quite well. And then by 80 minutes, he had 2 assists and we were 2-0 up. That's what he's so important to the attack and play. And I say even just little things like this, not really a chance, is it? But it's just playing with so much confidence at the moment. He'll give it a go. And I say yes. He's fantastic to have in the team at the moment, and obviously the main warning I got, we suppose, from the Norwich lot when we signed him was, he'll be injured all season. You'll barely get any time out of him. You know, he's played basically every game, hasn't he? There's been no sign of that whatsoever, and you can see the talent he's got, and he's thriving.
Yeah, for the most part. Rich, I remember when we did the Sheffield Wednesday recap, and you did praise Nunes as well, but. Are you like hiring him as our main 10? Like, say if we do go up next year, is that him occupying that position what we can hope for? Obviously, you know, you probably sign a gajillion players when you move up, and we obviously saw that last year. But he seems to be like finding his feet as a 10 and just being a real key member of the squad, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with Rob. As soon as he went into that position, you saw that the team just looked more balanced. We were really struggling to find a number 10 that would give us anything, really. You know, even last season when Hutchinson was played there quite a bit and he just lost his effectiveness, I felt. He's got bullied off the ball and was much better out wide. But it's been a tough role for us to fill since Chaplin, and even he couldn't necessarily step up to the Premier League level. I just think with Nunes, as soon as I saw him, I didn't really know that much about him, really. I'd seen highlights of him at Norwich, but I don't tend to watch their games very much, so I hadn't seen much of him. And I just thought, as soon as I saw him, particularly live, there's a few things about his game that I think, you know, is a bit rough around the edges. I think sometimes he gives the ball away a little bit too much. He can sort of be a bit impetuous with possession and things, and a bit careless with possession occasionally. But he just sees space so much better than a lot of the players, and you saw that kind of like straight away with him. Even when I think Rob's right, he was being played too deep, and I don't think he's a sitting midfielder. I don't think he can be that player, really. I think he wants to kind of create space and move through the lines and stuff, and he's so effective at it. He will drive forward and he'll find himself in different areas of the pitch and stuff. He reminds me of the kind of like what they play in the Premier League quite a lot as a left 8, you know, that kind of position where the midfielder generally is doing quite a lot. They're fairly box to box, but they're in a more advanced role most of the time, and I think Nunes has that in his locker to be that box-to-box influence as well, but also, you know, further up the pitch, he definitely has more cachet kind of thing. But I've always really liked him since he came in. To me, he looks one of the most technically proficient players in the squad, and a player that you would trust in the Premier League. Whether he's a week in, week out starter at 10 in the Premier League is a different story. But I think he could hold his own up there because I think he's got the technical ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting to the hour mark, there was a few pen shouts in this game from both sides. The first one really came from the away side, counter-attack from Blackburn. Ball whipped into the middle, and it looked like, Rob, I don't know where your thoughts are on it, the Blackburn boss after the game Valerian Ismail was not happy about it, calling for VAR post-match as well. From that and a few other occasions from his perspective as well, with Furlong seemingly pushing over the Blackburn player in the box there, and them thinking they should have been awarded a penalty. Thoughts on that? I mean, don't think about VAR in a championship is the way to go, but it looked like a bit of a push. To be fair, I can see why some Rovers fans might have been a bit felt hard done by it, perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? We call for it the other way around. Same way we're fairly in agreement that we shouldn't have it given the way around it was. It's one of them, really. I sort of like, you probably don't argue with the referee either way. It's not a strong enough case, I would say, to go and that the ref's got it wrong and it was a penalty. But the same way that I'd be probably complaining it was quite soft if it was given, that I wouldn't have had too many complaints, really. I don't know. So the manager's obviously going to go over the top. He obviously feels aggrieved with it being against his team, but he's got previous referees this year. He turned up to a press conference with a bit of paper listing mistakes earlier in the year, so he's clearly not a fan of the referee standard in the championship. So he's always going to have a moan every chance he gets. But for me, it's like I've got no complaints at it not being given, but same as I probably wouldn't have had much to defend Furlong if it had been given. Really, one of those.
There's a similar one earlier, about 10 minutes or maybe 20 minutes later as well, Richard, with even Azon as well, going down the box. Obviously, we won the game 3-0, so who cares, really? But do you think that was potentially a penalty? It was Cashin again being involved, potentially almost going from hero to zero to even more zero with a penalty given away. Do you think that one, any penalty shout there?
No, not really. No? As you mentioned earlier, he didn't have a brilliant game, did he, on his debut? But no, I think it would have been a bit of a sort of soft one. I think Ishmael kind of Valerian talking about VAR coming in. I mean, we've talked about VAR on this pod before. I don't think it should be put across all of this a bit. I just don't. I'm not sure if we really want that, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, managers always do this. They, if a result goes for you, people look at it in, depending on your point of view and who you support, they're looking at it in different ways and stuff. But I think both decisions, to me, seemed fair, to be honest.
But before that as well, just look at some subs who came on. So Azon for Hurst, Burns for Egley, Schmodix for Nunes, and Q-Stay for Taylor. There, Rich, we haven't actually. I know again, we're looking at the Blackburn game, but in this match it was Wes Burns' 150th appearance for the club as well. Rob obviously talked about how great it is to have him back on the Cov victory at the end of the year there. But just your thoughts. I said it last week, Shah. I'm so chuffed to have him back. Just the way he plays and drives forward on that right side, and just from a team perspective, it's so key having someone who's been there and done that for Town, isn't it? And having him back doing his thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly that. He knows the system. He knows the club really well. His role is pretty simple, but he does it really, really well. And at this level, particularly, he can still influence games, and has already proved that. Since he's come back in. I know we haven't got to the goal yet, but it's nice for him to be involved later in the game and stuff. And I think he's somebody, Wes Burns, really. I mean, I remember when he first came in, I think he had quite a good first year where he scored quite a few goals, but he was a bit hot and cold. He would have games where he was really on it. And, in League One, he could really influence games. And I think he scored 12, 15 goals maybe in one of the seasons he played down there. But he was a bit hot and cold, but I think he's found a bit more consistency over the years. And in the Championship promotion season, he was great. In the Premier League, he had his moments as well. I didn't think he looked completely out of his depth. So it's just great to have him back. Such a long injury, and I think it's quite clear McKenna still has faith in him and a plan for him. Obviously, we saw kind of Ogbene come back from a similarly long-term serious injury, and a couple of games he played at the start of the year, and clearly the staff saw something that didn't convince them that he could contribute. Whereas with Burns, I think maybe we're forced into that position because McAteer has been such a poor signing at this stage, and we need somebody else on that right-hand side to provide minutes. But it's great. I don't think you can get him 90 minutes a game, Burns, and I think that would be the case for the rest of the year, really. He's been out for too long. I just think that's going to be too much to ask. But if he can provide you with 30 minutes, or even 60 if he starts the odd game, where he's really bombing down the right, I think we would look a far more dangerous team.
Yeah, so it's almost coming up to a year now when he got injured against Liverpool as well. You think mentally to come back from that, not just physically, and be so involved straight away with a goal and assist in a few games as well, and starting for a side 150 appearances. So many things going right from this in this return already. So hopefully he can keep going. But as you said there, he was involved in the goal that kind of sealed the win on the 87th minute mark. All 4 subs combining for this goal as well, which is really great to see that strength and depth coming through once more with Azor winning possession in the middle of the pitch, laying off to Cuse, one of his trademark runs where he bulldozes through the middle and kind of puts the defence in their back foot. A really good pass cutting the gap through to Burns, who plays it across the face to Sam Schmolitz, getting his first goal for the club at Portman Road, and had to come against the side he did so well at a few years ago, Rob, and stealing the win for Town. Great for Schmolitz to get his first goal, as I said, at Portman Road, and all 3 points wrapped up there.
Yeah, great for him. Like I say, it's been a long time coming, considering he signed him last summer. But yeah, he's struggled when he has played this season, I thought. So it's nice for him to get a goal. We'll say the 2 goals we scored early on sort of allowed the rest of the game to be played a bit of freedom, which he obviously made the most of. It's good as well because he's the player I see the most likely to be going in January if there was going to be one. So from that side of things, it's nice to get him in the shop window and let him show his quality. And if anyone is eyeing him up as an option, because I was actually surprised he was playing, to be honest, because all I've heard sort of on the rumour mill everywhere is that he was on his way out, and that's why he hadn't been playing since he's come back from injury and that all sorts, because he wanted to move away because he's not going to get enough minutes, all the normal sort of January transfer chat, and then saw he was on the bench, he's come on and he scored a goal. So who knows what will happen between now and the end of the month. But really good for him, like I say, on a personal level, because he's been waiting a while for a home goal. So he took it well as he could have done. So happy for him more than anything, really. But say, if from a business point of view, that gets him back out in the shop window if anyone was thinking of buying him off our hands before the end of the month.
I didn't really have Schmolitz on my shop window. I kind of get where you're coming from, considering the injuries, and it took him this long to get his first goal at Portman Road. But that sort of off the bench 10 role, it seems to maybe that doesn't be maybe it isn't what he wants, perhaps. But it's still some quality off the bench. Do you think Richard Schmolitz could be on the shopping list? Maybe this summer could be a shout, but.
January. I do personally, yeah. He's never massively convinced me. I think he had his moments in the Premier League. We've talked about that before, but he's just not been available. I think he's played. What's he played? 37 games, basically in a year and a half. So he's missed quite a lot of football. He's probably missed about a third of the games, roughly speaking. And to me, it always feels like there's an injury around the corner with him. I don't think you can question his desire and stuff. And I think at the start of the season he was working hard, but I always think that that's a bit of a when people say, "Oh, but he works hard," it's like, well, that should be a given, shouldn't it? The job is to kind of work hard and run around and chase the ball and close down and press and all the rest of it when you're a forward. So yeah, it's not that I don't particularly like the player. I think he's fine. I think he's okay, but I don't think it's worked really. So if they were to get a reasonable deal for him, the same way that bid came in from Wrexham for Broadhead, Nathan Broadhead could have easily given more than Sammy Schmolitz does, but you had to take that money because it was such a good offer. And I think if they get 5 or 6 million offered for Schmolitz, then you'd take it at this stage, because the guy, I think he's 30, isn't he? And he's he does have the injury record and stuff. And like I say, I think he can be a good player at the right club. I don't think it's quite worked with Town.
Yeah, that's fair. But coming off his goal, obviously 3-0, all 3 points wrapped up. That's actually the first time we've won 3 games in a row this season. Probably first we've won 3 games in a row in quite a long time. Yeah, obviously if you don't count technically 4 in a row if you count Blackpool last week, but in the league at least, it's 3 wins in a row. But we said, as you said at the top of the show, all things pointing in the right direction as well. Before we wrap up the show, guys, just a couple more things. It seems to always be the talk online. I think really the second half he was loaned out, as if we maybe come back in January. But Connor Chaplin's loan option, the recall option, was extended. I think the deadline was this week, but they've moved it back another week. Do you think that's maybe a potential, just keeping options open if they want to bring someone in that 10 role? Maybe Schmonix goes to bring someone in to put in that that option, and then someone comes in. But if not, they do go to bring Chappers back to Portman Road. I think that would be a welcome addition to the side. We very much, as I said, he's on my Mount Rushmore, so I'd be very happy to see him back. But hasn't seemed to do his job at Pompey or much as he this season, Rob. Unfortunately, and they kind of haven't been too chuffed to have him back.
No, I think I don't know what will happen with that there. I think it's probably covering both bases. I think it's probably, if anybody else is interested in taking him, one of those where you bring him back and then send him out somewhere else that you see all the time in January. The loans haven't quite worked out. I think that's probably a consideration there if another club is interested, maybe. But then also, like you said, that if Schmodix is probably the most likely player, now Humphreys has gone out on loan, that would be likely to depart in January. So maybe if that happens too late in the window to get a replacement in, and then you've got the option to bring Chaplin back to add more options into the number 10 role if we do lose Schmodix. I think it's just a smart move, really, because it gives you an extra option on both senses, really, but until the end of the month to what to do with Connor Chaplin, really. But I think it would be dependent on Schmodix or anybody. If someone would have to go before we'd activate that recall, I think, unless it was a case of they decided it's not worked out at Portsmouth and somebody else wants him for 6 months.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. As I said, we've got about 2 weeks now. I think it's early Feb in the Championship. The window shuts as well. So I don't know. It's weird. Like, we hasn't been much chatter. As I said last week, we had, obviously, you said there, Rob, Humphreys has gone to Huddersfield, reunited with Lee Grant again. I talked to last week about Callum Wilson. He's netted the winner on the weekend, so West Ham would be mad to let him go. And then obviously Tom Kearney, there's a potential there, but it's not obviously anything solidified. But that talk seems to have quietened down. Richard, do you think, obviously we've shown in recent years the January window of your Luongos and Hurst and Sarmientos and Kiefer Moore. There's a lot of names you can list off who've come in this time of year. Broadhead as well made a big impact being a January signing. But do you think we need any? Or, bring
Nathan Broadhead back. No.
Playing them twice next time, aren't we? So
yeah, I do think we probably do need someone. I think a striker or a 10 hybrid, whatever, but that could play maybe both positions. Actually, well, yeah, true. Maybe we do just need a number 9 rather than a hybrid sort of player that can play both for a bit of a clearer role. But I think we do. Schmodix has scored 1 goal this year. Was that his first of the year, or is it the second? His first. Right, so it's his first goal and first at Portman Road. Azon scored 1. Akpom's scored 1 or 2. 2, maybe.
Azon's got 2. You got 1 at Swansea and then
Azon's
1
got
again.
2. Sorry, so that's 5 goals between 3 players. And I think Hurst has got 5 or 6.
7 or 8,
So clearly there still isn't, no one's really kind of like running with those positions, and there could be improvement. I think it's really difficult in January to find those players. Maybe a Premier League club at this stage, somebody who's kind of been frozen out on the bench or whatever, who wants to play for the next 4 or 5 months. Town can pick up one of those. They're in a good position to do that because they're at the top of the Championship. So Premier League clubs would look at somewhere like Ipswich. Someone who jumps to my mind, I don't think he'd be available, but it'd be amazing if they could pick up like Ethan Wanyeri from Arsenal in the number 10 for the rest of the year. Something like that. Like if they were like, we want him to go and get some football, he'd probably get a Premier League move. But something like that would be incredible. But there's upgrades to be had up there. And if it's not going to happen in January, it's definitely going to happen in the summer, whether we go up or not. So I think Rob's right. The Chaplin thing will be about whether Schmodix does go. I wasn't aware that there are massive rumours, but it kind of makes a bit of sense. But I think that the club is clearly playing its cards close to its chest, as it seems to be the case around the leagues. There's not a lot of stuff going on yet. I'm sure there'll be a bit at the end of January, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be a massive month anyway, because they've kind of calmed down in recent years, January's anyway. But I reckon Town will do some business if I were to place a bet on it.
Maybe it's like all the top clubs in the league right now are sort of just waiting for one to make their move.
Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps. One club who has brought in a new signing in January is Bristol City, and we were playing them on Tuesday night. And obviously, we had a draw against them early in the season. They had a good start, but seemed to have mellowed out ever so slightly, still sitting in the top 10. But obviously, the big talking point going into Tuesday's game, guys, is the return of Sam Morsey. Some kind of called him to come back after Kuwait said bye-bye. Was it Kuwait? No, it wasn't. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuwait CS or SC.
Just thoughts on the King's return to Portman Road. He's going to get a big reception. Some people call him that online, mate. Skip's return as well. Just welcome reception. As long as he doesn't do anything to hinder our promotion hopes, I'm sure it'll be a welcome return as well. But great to see him back at Portman Road, regardless of what colour shirt he's wearing, isn't it? Whoever wants to take the floor.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have him back, wouldn't it? But he's playing for the other team at the end of the day, and he'll get a nice reception before the game when his name's read out on the team sheet, and he'll get a nice reception if he's subbed off or at full time. Anything in between, he'll get the same amount of stick as any other Bristol City player will. But so he's done well.
How much has he played?
A couple of games.
He started on the weekend.
Yeah, he did a couple of games. He's quite popular there already, from what I see so far. It sounds like he sort of filled a hole they were missing in that sort of player in midfield, because from what I can gather, he's fairly popular on the early impressions of him. So, as you'd probably expect.
Did you see what you said about Liam Manning as well in his press conference?
Yeah,
quite subtle.
Yeah, the little dig.
It was because it was sort of saying, like, the manager, he put him in a good spot last year, obviously with the playoffs and stuff, and then he left, and he sort of said, "Don't think it was the right move going to that particular place." Sort of having a little dig at Norwich, which
as always,
as Rob said, wearing a red shirt on the weekend on Tuesday, be against him, but already still in our favour from doing that. But just thoughts going into that game before we wrap up, guys. Obviously, we're Blackburn review, but Tuesday's right around the corner. Chance to potentially go second before Borough play on Wednesday.
Yeah, I also just saw he picked up a yellow card as well on the weekend.
Obviously,
classic Sam. Yeah, he'll clatter into the back of Jack Taylor, I'm sure, within the first sort of 10 minutes of the game. It's a great opportunity, isn't it? I mean, again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying at the start of the pod. I think I'm completely expectant that we'll win the game. I know Bristol City, they can turn it on. They've got some really good players, some very good players, in fact. And I'm remembering the last game. I watched that 3-2. I think it was Leif Daviston. He scored the winner in the Bristol City game, which is a great game at Portman Road. It was a night game, probably a Tuesday night. So if we get anything like that kind of entertainment, a bit of a throwback to that season would be good fun. But yeah, lots on it. As you said, opportunity to go second before Borough play on Wednesday. Morsey coming back, and a chance for us just to stick 4 in a row in on the board, 7 games unbeaten in the league, that kind of stuff, and really start to motor towards trying to catch Coventry would be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Any change, Rob? As we said, we expect to see probably Jack Clark in Philogene spot given his knock he got on the weekend. But any other changes you think in 11 before?
Yeah, I think there'll be the usual rotations when we have 2 games in a week. So you'd expect Keys will come in for Taylor. Pretty much, that's fairly nailed on. That happens every time we play Saturday, Tuesday, really. Probably as on instead of Hurst, because he just come back from injury, and then maybe even Burns on the right. I don't know, but so it's normally the attacking sort of areas get rotated from a Saturday to a Tuesday. McKenna sort of got his routine changes he likes to make. So the sort of game we'd normally see McAteer in normally, but I don't think we will this time round. I think it would be Burns if anybody. But yeah, I've 2 or 3, I reckon, just to so one kind of enforce with Philogene. We won't know what happens with that. If he starts, we won't know until the press conference 10 minutes before the game, before teams come out, because we know what McKenna's like. But yeah, I think I wouldn't ring the changes, because I think we made that mistake in the away game. I think we made too many changes for the game at Ashton Gate, and it made it a really dull affair that in the end we were sort of fairly happy to take a point from, because we were really poor on the day. So I think, a couple of changes, try and just keep the momentum, because we keep talking about second, but it's just as easy. It's that tight up the top at the moment. You have one bad result, you could drop down as far as 5th with everyone else knocking on your door. So you got to keep ticking along.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like I said, before we finish up there, we talked about earlier in the show, if you guys have managed to sort of get your thoughts together now on a potential town Mount Rushmore, it can be a collective one or an individual one before we finish up. Any other thoughts on that, we finish it there? Mine still seems to be racing. I was going to go for, like I said, I had Chaplin and for a personal favourite, Martin Royce, just from his key goals he made for the club over the years. I'll chuck. I think Rob, you'll probably be in agreement with here. I'll chuck Luke Chambers in there as well. 396 appearances during quite a tough period for the club, but always gave his all and still really well fondly looked back on by the town faithful. I'll chuck Chambers. This is very much a modern.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think
you're not going to get your Mariners in there and stuff like that. You probably should.
Yeah,
be
that's
in
that's the point I was going to make. So, I mean, it depends what parameters you're putting on this. Because if it's since I started watching, then Chambers is probably one of the first ones on there, but he don't make an all-time one.
Everyone's going to have a different one, mate. Like whether you and maybe like Richard Naylor's always a good shout.
That's the thing. That's why I need like since I've been watching, we were rubbish for 15 years at that. So nobody deserves to be on there. If you do it in the context of the club,
absolutely not.
Right, that's the thing. Like,
Did you just say Richard Naylor? Tom
yeah.
I mean, Bam can get on there, absolutely. I reckon I'll go for these because I have seen all of these players right at the end of his career, by the way, where he was walking around with a belly. John Walk.
Yeah.
David Johnson I loved when I was growing up. He was our best striker. I loved him. Jim Magilton, absolutely, manager player. And Luke Wolfenden for the modern Cats.
Yeah. I like that. It's a good blend. I think that's probably the best one we're going to have, really, because people think, "Why have you not got someone from X years going?" But we have now. So, like I said, if anyone wants to comment below their town Mount Rushmore, there's plenty to choose from. You're always going to have a slightly different one as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's show. Like I said, recapping Town's 3-0 victory against Blackburn. We'll be back on Wednesday to look back on Town's game against Bristol City. As I said on last week's show, if you do want to get involved with Track to Noise as well, we are looking to get some new members of the team. So if you do want to get in touch, tracktonoisepodcast@gmail.com, or give us a comment below or give us a DM on any of our socials to get in touch with any of us and potentially talk about getting on the team. We really appreciate and look to have more people on board as we get to busy end of the season. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's show. We'll see you on Wednesday.